So I spent yesterday evening trying to repair a wheel on a riding lawnmower. Whether it was because I got too close to the chain link fence and it tore a hole in it, or whether it was from the neighbor's pit bull always trying to chew on that tire every time I get close to that fence, it was in desperate need of some help. So as I get to looking at it, I realized that I need a new one. And I go to Harbor Freight, and while it wasn't the exact match, it was pretty close and the price was right. So I thought I can work with this. I then went to the hardware store, got a bolt and some washers to help out, but I also needed a spacer, which I ended up needing to make myself. As an end result, I left my mother-in-law's house yesterday evening with a tire that, while it wasn't perfect, it was going to work. We were created perfect. We were created by God in perfection. The trouble is, we live in a fallen world, and as a result, that perfection is marred by sin, and our lives become scarred, torn, and broken beyond repair, so that we need help. We are in desperate need of help. This is where the power of God and grace comes into play. The spiritual application here comes from Ephesians chapter 4, verses 22 through 24. You were taught with regard to your former way of life to put off your old self, which is being corrupted by its deceitful desires, to be made new in the attitude of your minds, and to put on the new self, created to be like God in true righteousness and holiness. Obviously, my somewhat questionable attempts of mower repair are nothing like what God is able to do in our lives. While God created us to be perfect, that perfection is corrupted by selfishness, deceitful desires, and Satan uses those deceitful desires to tear us apart, to tear apart God's creation. God does not cobble together these pieces, though, like I did with a pipe and a angle grinder. Instead, he makes them new. One of the most intriguing parts about Paul's admonition in Ephesians is who we were created to be like. Verse 24 again, remember this, and put on the new self, created to be like God in true righteousness and holiness. I still have a hard time realizing this part of my nature. However, I believe that is actually the key to being renewed. If I can dwell on the fact that God intended me to be like him, it makes me desire to be more, to be better, to be new. The attitude of being created in God's image changes everything. It changes my actions. And while I still become overwhelmed by sin, I am also overwhelmed by what God does to renew me, this new creation that he intended me to be. And God's work is all done through the sacrifice of Jesus. While Satan compels me to be broken, it is no match for the love that God has and has revealed in my life to make me new. So why don't we dwell on that this week and see what God can do when we have in our minds the image that God created us to be. Thank you for taking 6 minutes to center with me today.